to the participants, peer reviewers, administrators, and committee of International Conference, a pleasant day to all. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you my study about an effective blended learning for business management students, a post-pandemic learning modality with the educational system in Indonesia and the Philippines, with the sub-theme of innovation and future learning to enhance the quality of teaching method in higher education. My name is Benita Aquino Meneses. I am regular full-time faculty and industry practitioner from Far Eastern University, Institute of Accounts, Business and Finance, Business Administration Department, Manila City, Philippines. Innovation and future learning elements including the educational system, blended learning, learning modality. COVID-19 has a variety effect on various people. Not just the sick person, but both the private and public sectors are affected. This period had tremendous influence on educational systems, particularly student learning patterns. It evolves into new learning platforms, virtual learning with the goals of expanding student learning options. In virtual learning settings, students engage and access the information in ways that they would not or could not a traditional classroom. According to the United Nations Educational and Scientific Cultural Organization or UNESCO 2020, most governments across the world has temporarily closed educational institutions to fight the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. Several countries have implemented localized closure that would affect millions of additional students. Almost 200 countries shut down their school, interrupting the education of almost billions of students. Some schools were able to recognize the problems that their students were encountering and were willing to be flexible and proactive in dealing with them, especially if they really had significant parental participation. This has seen the most improvement and development. In educational system, a new normal emerged across both countries. It has also begun to acknowledge the effectiveness of virtual learning. Learning takes place between the instructor and learners who are geographically separated during educational process. This style of education includes the deployment of learning materials into various learning modalities such as modular distance learning or MDL or online distance learning or ODL. According to the research conducted before the pandemic, online teaching mode is more successful than traditional classroom training except for courses that requires hands-on instruction. Blended learning to this study is defined as a hybrid type of learning that is provided by a virtual room and actual classroom that may be used during post-pandemic period. The use of blended learning aids the acceleration of student-centered approach due to volatile growth in the usage of new information technology in nearly all elements of education and training. Blended learning is more essential than ever, regardless of the business, from schools to corporations and from all walks of life. According to their study, teachers can visualize and track each student progress, making easier to the spot signs of students struggling or demonstrating educational strengths and intervening accordingly. In this study, some concern that may cause potential disadvantages and assess the benefits of blended learning methods for selected business management students when they return to regular schooling in Indonesia and Philippines, which this study would aim to address appropriate learning modality that can be done through virtual and physical classroom once face-to-face classes are resumed in these countries. Furthermore, the proponent null assumptions that there are no significant variation in effective and not effective blended learning when selected management students returning to conventional schooling in Indonesia and the Philippines. The study was written using descriptive survey research design. The participants of the research consisted of 408 students from selected public and private universities in Surabaya, Indonesia, and Metro Manila, Philippines, who were attend the synchronous classes. The tool utilized was two parts questionnaires aim at assessing variables of effective and ineffective blended learning in the educational system for business management students in both nations. The survey was provided to them at random using Google Forms linked with QR code, which was spread over numerous social networking sites by their professorial lecturers. The Cronbach's Alpha, based on a standardized item of 20 questions of the survey questionnaire, passed with 0.875, which was considered as favorable results of the study. After the data gathered, results were analyzed and interpreted using a statistical treatment of descriptive statistics, which described the data through weighted arithmetic mean and one-way analysis of variance to evaluate of the proponent's assumption in this research, the significant and not significant level of the findings. Differences at the margin of error 0.05 or 5%. As the results, the following tables and figures show the intervening data of the influencing elements of effective and not effective blended learning for business management students as their learning modality in the educational system in Indonesia and the Philippines. Table 1 indicates the determining of effective blended learning for business management students in Indonesia and Philippines. The participants in the Philippines rated strongly agree as the highest rank almost all determining factors of the effective blended learning responses, while the lowest rank among responses was agree, which is also indicate the positive result of student-centered learning means that they know the effective blended learning still to their initiative to do tasks to both synchronous and asynchronous class. As to participants from Indonesia, they rated strongly agree was the highest rank. Similarly with the Philippines participants' responses, but different results to the lowest rank rated agree to determining factors such as maximizes and save time, self-paced learning, and provide immediate feedback of performance, but still was also a positive result for effective blended learning. Table 2 depicts the determining factors of not effective blended learning for business management students in Indonesia and Philippines. The participants in both countries have the same rated strongly agree as the highest rank to determining factors of not effective learning in terms of confusion with unexplained lesson, technical difficulties, not applicable to all types of learner or students, certain students can fall behind, and internet connectivity dependence. There were different responses to increases student complacency and negative perception towards instructors' performances, wherein rated strongly agree for participants from Indonesia but not in the Philippines, rated them agree as the lowest rank of the indicators increased cheating incidents or compromised honesty and non-compliance of requirements and no face-to-face interaction. Table 3 shows one-way ANOVA of the significant differences in determining factors of effective blended learning for management students between Philippines and Indonesia. Tukey's HSD was used to determine the nature of their differences. It was discovered that determining factors of effective blended learning for business management students of learning modality to the educational system resulted to the mean and standard deviation of, for Indonesia, mean 30.06, standard deviation of 8.19, and for the Philippines, mean of 31.31, and standard deviation of 7.92. There were both significant and not significant difference from either of the two groups. Therefore, the indicator maximizes saves time, self-paced learning, student-centered learning, development technological adaptedness, provide immediate feedback of the performance, and opportunity to make up classes. The null assumption is interpreted as reject, whereas the indicators uses advanced collaboration tools, real-time results, improved self-discipline and responsibility, and improved reading and writing skills is interpreted as failed reject, the determining factors of effective blended learning modality to the educational system of both countries. Table 4 shows that one-way ANOVA of the significant differences in determining factors of not effective blended learning for management students in the Philippines and Indonesia. Tukey's HSD was used to determine the nature of their difference, and it was discovered that determining factors of effective blended learning for business management student of learning modality to the educational system resulted to the mean and standard deviation of Indonesia, mean of 32.32 and standard deviation of 7.76, and for Philippines, mean of 28.64 and standard deviation of 9.15 were substantially different from either of the two groups except to one of the indicators. Therefore, the indicators' technical difficulties like internet connection, non-compliance of the requirement, internet connectivity dependence, certain students can fall behind, confusion with unexplained lesson, increased student complacency, not applicable to all types of the learners and students, and negative perception towards instructor performance. The null assumption is interpreted as reject, while indicator face-to-face interaction and increases cheating incidents or compromise the honesty of the student. The null high assumption interpreted as failed reject. The determining factors of not effective blended learning modality to the educational system of both countries. As to conclusion, the findings could not be used as a foundation for understanding the characteristics that contribute to effective blended learning for business management students in the educational system during post-pandemic. Both Indonesian and Filipino participants have parallels and variances in terms of how beneficial and unproductive blended learning is for them. These two countries' business management students agree on student-centered learning. But when it comes to maximizing and saving time, self-paced learning, and providing rapid feedback on performance, Indonesian students only agree on determining elements of efficient blended learning. The remaining influencing variables all point to blended learning as sustainable option. It implies that business management students can continue to learn through synchronous classes, and face-to-face is an alternative as necessary to their degree as part of both nations' educational systems. Except for the signs that enhance students' complacency and critical perceptions of instructors' competence, the deciding variables of ineffective blended learning are the same in both nations because of technical issues and the reliance on an internet connection. Blended learning has become ineffective. Furthermore, their belief that certain students may fail behind may be based on the misunderstandings with unclear lecture or may not be appropriate to all types of business management students. As a result, most business management students learn in a synchronous classroom setting, while some of them cannot adjust to virtual learning. The innovation in the educational system of Indonesia and the Philippines still need to offer a mixed physical and virtual classroom or an innovative blended learning to their educational system. For the references of the study are as follows. Again, this is Benita Aquino Meneses. A blessed day to all. Thank you.